Hello and welcome to another edition of Mailbag. What is Mailbag? Well, Mailbag is a feature of the channel where you guys leave lots of comments on the channel and I attempt to answer those comments, or if I can't answer those comments, I throw it out to you guys who have more knowledge on some of this stuff than I do. So let's get into the first mailbag of this session. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. Next comment or question comes from Akin Speed Stars. Yeah. And this was in response to part 3 of the Roland D-70 series, Removal of the Key Bed, a video that was published in November 2024. And Akina writes, how do you remove the 4 black cables to the left of the main board? I don't see a clip at all. Now, I'm assuming what he's referring to is the thicker wires in those cables. You can't see how you release them because they're kind of pushed into a click lock, if you like, it's on the side. So what you need to do is you need to go down the side of the connector, and you should be able to see a release clip, and you just need a very small screwdriver, and you put it into there, and the clamp releases the pressure, and it allows you just to release the cable out. But I had to remind myself how to do that when answering this question, because when you're presented with those sort of situations, what I do is obviously I look at what type of connector it is, and then I've got a rough inkling how you're going to connect it. Now, some connectors are utter gits in terms of the way that once the cable is connected, you can't get it out because it's kind of a pressure connect. So the cable goes in like so, and then the grip goes down like that, so you can't pull against it, and there's no way to release this thing that's gripping it. But luckily on this case, none of the connectors on the Roland D-70 are like that. You just have to work out how to release the clamp. And the other thing that really I find interesting when you look at these synthesizers is the size and the way that the cables are connected. You know, you have some ribbon cables, and then you have bigger, thicker cables. And sometimes it's not obvious why you've got bigger, thicker cables. You know, there's no ampage rolling around in a synthesizer per se. You know, the thing runs at 15 watt, or I think probably 50 watt actually, in the case of the D-70. But it's not a massive current draw, so there's no ampage in there. But you know, maybe it's part of the audio circuitry, and it needs a little bit more copper to get the electrons around the circuit board. Anyway, that's how you do it. And then Akina writes, thanks for the answer. I looked at my board and realised that you just have to push down on the white part in order to release the wires. Not sure why it was done this way. And that's the bottom line. Sometimes you're absolutely completely unsure why they've connected things in the way they've connected. There was obviously a reason, right? You've got to bear that in mind. There was obviously a reason why they did it that way. It's just, it's not obvious when you look at it in hindsight and think, what? Next comment question comes from Looney Tunes 62. Actually, this is Ludi, and this was in response to Korg OASYS, a great concept with minor improvements for Korg Nautilus. Mailbag I did in June 2023, and Ludi writes, I just bought an OASYS 76 in mint condition. I paid €2,400 for it and a little extra for petrol. The seller wouldn't ship it because, according to him, it was rare, heavy and expensive. Instead, he brought it along after a 4-hour drive. I didn't mind. My gear acquisition syndrome, otherwise known as gas, was temporarily less severe. I've got a perfect Oasis now. I planned to get rid of my Kronos 88 when I acquired the Oasis, but they're getting cheaper and cheaper, and probably because of Kronos 3 coming this summer 2025. The Kronos 188 will be dirt cheap by then, so I think I'll keep it. Now, I love that experience, and what I would say is, personally, I love my Korg Kronos, and it will be in the next few weeks. It will be appearing in the studio here as I embark on the next stage of the studio setup. So kind of this end kind of all works, but that end kind of doesn't work at the moment, and I want to get that end working. I also had somebody comment on me about the sort of reverb in here, and there is a reverb in here. You can hear it on the recordings, but seeing as most of the stuff I'm doing at the moment is digital, while I do intend to put some dampening material on the walls to kind of dampen the reverb a bit, it doesn't actually bother me for the time being. However, that's completely off topic. Now, what was really interesting was between the Oasis and the Kronos, there were a number of features that were kind of dropped. I don't think it was a major loss, but it was kind of Korg trying to cut across from the £8,000 price tag that the Oasis had to something that was more palatable for musicians, which was about 3,500, if I remember correctly, for the 88 key Kronos. Well, I think that's somewhere in that region is what I paid for my Kronos too. But the other thing which I found really interesting about this is that there are still some genuinely nice people out there, right? So this guy, right, you paid him, Ludi obviously gave him some money for transport, but he drove 4 hours from wherever he is in Europe to wherever Ludi is in Europe to bring him the Oasis. Now that to me is a genuine musician, right? He's willing to do that, and it just shows that there are people out there that really are nice guys and the people you want to transact with.